to the republic for which it stands,
one nation, under God,
indivisible,
with liberty and justice for all.
Guns, self-defense, concealed carry. This is the Patriot Defense Podcast. From the war room in Idaho's high desert, here's your host, Todd Echols.
And I am back. Once again, it is 4 o'clock on a Monday morning, early Monday morning, and I am tucked away in the war room somewhere in the high desert of southern Idaho. And as far as I know, the only one awake right now is me and my dog. And she's currently, what is she doing? She is currently taking another nap or going back to sleep again. So I am the only one up right now in my household. The others won't be up for a few hours when they have to go to work and go to school. So I thought I would sneak out here and get this podcast done since I was busy with classes yesterday. So hopefully everyone's had a great week. Hopefully everyone is making the transition into spring smoothly. It's kind of here in southern Idaho, it's kind of a roller coaster ride. I mean, we can have wind and snow one day, and it'll be 60, 70 degrees the next day. And, I mean, we had snow the other day, and they're calling for this next Sunday. It was supposed to be 80 degrees. I honestly think this is our spring. I think we're going to go from spring straight into 90s. I think that's kind of what is happening. You know, forget the 60s and 70s. We're going to jump right into summer again, which is kind of what we've been doing the last couple of years. So I'm ready for it, though. I'm ready to start lawn mowing. I'm ready to be on the range in warm weather. I would love to be on the range in a short sleeve shirt. That would be absolutely fantastic. In fact, I had a permit class on Saturday, and there's about 22 people in the class. A great class, great group of people, really good shooters, by the way. Some really, really good shooters. Great class. The weather was a little cool, but it turned out not too bad in the long run. Just the class went smooth. I mean, nothing else to say, right? The class went smooth, and everyone obeyed the safety rules. And, you know, that brings me to a point. Let's talk about this. And I always I've talked about it before, but it's good to touch back on it again. When you go and you take a class, and I haven't really had a problem with this. I mean, I get some people that kind of look at me and roll their eyes, and they don't understand why I do the things that I do. But when you go and you take a class from an instructor, whether it be it's any kind of training class, and we're going to talk about this multiple times. I have some different thoughts on the training process later on, but as far as how I structure the safety in a class, that's what I want to talk about right now. When you go and you attend a permit class, or you go and you attend just any class, you know, pay attention to the instructor and listen to what he has to say. And he's got rules in his class. He's got safety rules in his class, and he's got those rules for a reason. I go down the list of rules I have and what I want people to do, and they just look at me, and then I start telling them why. And they all laugh at the stories. They all laugh at the why. Why do you have us do it this way, Todd? And then when I tell them the story behind why I created that, then they laugh. They think it's funny, and then they just kind of stare at me in disbelief. As an instructor, I have seen it all. Now, when we do a permit class, you know, I have a lot of people. Those are big classes. They could range, I mean, sometimes they're small. They could range anywhere from 7 or 8 people, but usually they're right around 15, 16, 17 people. Sometimes there'll be as much as 20 or 30 people in one of those classes. And I have to run a safe class. I want to go home safely. I want to have a good time. I want my students to go home safely, and I want them to have an enjoyable time, right? I'm responsible for just not my safety in that class, but everyone's safety. My students' safety, the safety of the guys that I have helping me on the range, and everyone kind of works together as a team, and we make it happen. And in that class, I have such a wide variety of students, from people who have handled firearms for 30, 40 years to people who have maybe only been shooting for a week, if at all. Sometimes the first time people shoot is actually in that class. And so I've heard horror stories from other classes. And so the way I do it is we have on the firing line, we have a nice line of tables. That is the firing line in the permit class. And you don't mess with your firearms till we actually do the shooting portion, which is after lunch. And when you show up, everyone sets their guns and their ammo. We assign people lanes. We get you all settled out on the range there. And your firearms come out when you are on the firing line so that they can be placed on the table, cleared, slide lock back, magazine out, and pointed down range. And that is where they stay. So if I have two groups shooting, they'll alternate when they shoot. One group will shoot, then they'll step back. The other group will step up and shoot. The guns never leave the table. The firearms never leave the table. That's the way I want it. That's the way that it has to be. Because I can't have people I can't have people standing behind the shooters with guns. And I don't care if I am told, well, it's just going to be in my holster. No. I know you, I trust you, but I don't know you and I don't trust you. I tell everyone in class, I got to treat you guys all look like you're great, responsible human beings. But I got to treat you like you've never touched a gun before. Like I don't know you. Like I just have to assume that you're going to be safe. Or you're going to be unsafe. So the guns, and I'm not trying to talk down or denigrate anyone, but the guns stay on the table until we are all done shooting. And when we're all done with the shooting portion, I then instruct the students to pick up the guns, make sure they're unloaded. They should be unloaded. Make sure they're unloaded and put them back in their holsters, put them back in their bags, and then they take everything back out to their vehicles. They stow them in their vehicles, and then they are to come back into the classroom where we'll have a quick debrief, just safety, go over, not safety, but just go over a couple things. And then they can go ahead and pay, and they get their paperwork, and I answer questions, that kind of stuff. That way, people aren't just walking around with their guns all willy-nilly. I've never had anything happen in my classes, and I believe, in my mind, I've got really good students, but I also believe that it's because I just retain control of the situation the best that I can. I control the firearms, when they're out, where they're at, and they don't need to be floating around class. They honestly don't need to be floating around class, and I need to have control over those firearms every minute someone has them out of their vehicles. That's the way I see it. I've got two wonderful guys that help me in my classes, and they are phenomenal. And as I'm going around, and I'm pretty talky. I like to talk with people, and I'm explaining stuff or joking around with someone, just making everyone feel at ease, right? And I'm working too. Don't get me wrong, but my two guys, they're checking guns. They're people first get their firearms out and they set them on the table. They're checking the guns. They're locking back the slides. They're all over it. They're all over it. And I just publicly thank my guys, whoever has helped me with the class. I know James is always there. Josh is there. Mark's been there. I just want to thank them, and Bathroom Paul helps me. Just want to thank those guys that have helped me in the past, that do still continue to help me. They do a great job, and I really, really appreciate their help. Now, I also want to say too that, as a student, if you go to class, go take a class, and you have an instructor, and then you have some range help, right? Range help, or guys that are helping on the range. I shouldn't call them range help. That sounds like I'm referring to kitchen help. That's not it. Guys that help me on the range. They're, we'll say assistant instructors, right? Something. They are instructors. They help me. They know what I'm doing, and when people are shooting, they each get a section of the line. I get one end. Like James will get another end, and whoever else is there will get the middle section, and we don't wander. So you never have to look for an instructor. There's always an instructor, typically right behind you. And I always point out, I've never really had a problem with this, but I always point out, and there's something to keep into consideration. You spend the half the day with me, so most of the time you're with me. Even in the classroom, I'm the one that's talking. If I don't know you, you kind of develop a relationship with me a little bit, because I'm the one that's answering your questions, and you get to know me the first part of the day. And then you go to lunch, and when you come back, we're going to go do the shooting portion. And then all of a sudden, bam, there's two more instructors there. These are people you've never met. I introduce you, but they're people you've never met, right? They're people you don't know. So you kind of feel akin to maybe talking with me or more comfortable talking with me. Well, it's very important that, and I tell the class, I let everyone know that these instructors, and even in other classes, other people's classes, those instructors know what they're doing, those other instructors, when they show up, or they wouldn't be there. I trust my guys. And sometimes I think they look at me like, Todd, you're micromanaging. I've got this. But, they're good-natured about it. But I trust those guys with everything because I have hired them to come and help. They come to help. And I wouldn't just hire someone just willy-nilly off the street who doesn't know what they're doing. So in that class, when those extra instructors, those other instructors show up, treat them like they're the main instructor. You can trust them like they're the main instructor. They know what they're doing. If they don't, they will refer back to the head instructor, the main instructor, which in my class obviously would be me. But what they say goes. If they're helping you, what they say goes. I trust them. They know how I teach. They know how I instruct. They know what I instruct. They know what I teach. That is what they say is gospel. Right. And I may come down and sometimes, and I guess this is the micromanaging, and adjust something if I see something that maybe they have missed. But for the most part, they are good to go. And I really, shout out to my students. They have all been okay with that. And my guys are great. The guys I have help me are fantastic, and they make for a better class. They make my business look fantastic. They're, like I said, they're an extension of me. They make everything roll safer and smoother and quicker, and that's what we are after. That's why I have extra instructors come and help, because it just makes things that much safer and that much better. A better experience for the student, because there's only one of me, and if there's 22 or 30 of you, that's not a legit breakdown. Like that's a lot of people for me, and I know that. So I will typically, like we had a class of 22 people on Saturday. Could I first of all, I only have 15 lanes, but let's say I have a class of 15 people, right? I could legit put one person on each lane. And I could do what? I could bring in 2 other instructors, because I like to have about 5 students per instructor. So I've got a line of 15 people, one instructor on one end, me on the other end, and someone in the middle. That's 5, 5, and 5. And that's a legit breakdown. I err on the side of safety. And even though I can bring in 2 other guys, which I do, and have 15 people shooting at the same time, what I like to do is I will cut that in half. I will cut that in half, and I'll have 2 groups. And then I will still have my 2 instructors come and help. And that's less than 5 people per instructor, and it just makes things that much safer, that much smoother, and you get more individual attention that way. The student gets more individual attention that way. And that's why I do it the way I do it. And it just makes for a better experience overall. Everyone's happy, everyone's safe, everyone learns. And it's one of those things, too, where even though I'm at my end and the other 2 guys are in their spots, I still oversee everything, right? So for example, James may catch something and correct something and help you improve something. And then me or the other guy, whoever that might be, let's say it's Bathroom Paul, let's say it's Mark, he may see something else. Says, oh, well, James fixed that. Well, I kind of notice you're also doing this. And we can, you get more takes on it, more views, and you can just improve the shooter so much that way. And kind of a funny thing that happened in class is we have no problem. People show up and they use all different kinds of firearms. Some of them maybe they haven't shot it for a while, and it's just kind of an older gun, or it's, I will say some guns aren't the best of quality, and that's just kind of the way it is. It's just like buying a car. Sometimes you get a lemon, right? Sometimes you get some that have some problems, and you can do the same thing with firearms. Or the firearm doesn't fit the person. Like it's a real small gun, really snappy, long trigger pull. Yeah, can the shooter shoot it 5 or 6 times? Sure they can. but can the shooter shoot it 98 times? Because a gun will beat you down. If it's not the right gun for you, it'll beat you down, and pretty soon it'll elicit flinches. It'll elicit people not wanting to shoot, all kinds of stuff, fatigue. And you don't need that. And so if we see that, my guys are fantastic, and I want to just shout out to them. Right, they don't have to do this, but they do it. I have guns that I have for people to use. Hey, look, that gun is giving you some problems. I honestly don't have time to break this gun down and try and fix it in a class. I'll try for a second, but I don't have a lot of time. So why don't we just use this gun and we'll just kind of carry on, and then we will discuss what was wrong with your gun or whatever later on. And so I do that with my guns. I expect myself to do that. It's my class, right? It's my business. But my guys also bring their guns to class, and they don't mind. They don't mind sharing them and using them for those reasons, and they don't have to do this. This is wear and tear and abuse on their firearms, and they have no problems. Like, and the funny story I'm referring to, right? I feel like my guys go above and beyond, and I appreciate it so much. There was a husband and wife in our permit class, and I forget what gun she has, but she was struggling with this firearm. I don't know. I can't remember which gun it was, but she was struggling with it. I think the gun was like malfunctioning, and we don't have, like I said, we're not gunsmiths, and we don't have time to tear that. We might spray a little oil in there, see if we can get it to work. And if it doesn't work at that point, I'm just not tearing your gun apart. I don't want to be responsible for it. We're not gunsmiths. And I look down the lane because James is far at the other end, and I see, he's switching out firearms. And he'll typically have a gun to match the caliber of the gun you were shooting. That way there's not an ammo issue, right? You can just keep using your ammo, just use a different gun that's chambered for that round. And I look down there, and I'm like, what gun is he giving her to use? And James is a 1911 guy, and he's got 2011s, those 9mm chambered guns, or 1911s chambered in 9mm. He's got those as well. And I looked down. I knew she was shooting a 9mm, and I looked down there, and I'm like, oh, he gave her a 1911. And that's just something I like to, give James a hard time about. Everyone a hard time about. I make fun of gun brands all the time. That's just who I am. And I looked down there, and I'm like, that's one of his nice 1911s. And I kind of realized what she was shooting. And I went down there and I kind of watched for a minute because he was kind of instructing her, okay, this is a little different than the gun you had. Let me show you how it works. And she shot it a couple times, and she got this great big smile on her face, and the gun was running really well, and she was shooting it pretty good. And I kind of stood back next to her husband, and I was like, she really likes that gun, dude. And he's like, yeah, she really does. And I'm like, you might have to go make a gun purchase. And I'm smiling because I know what's going to happen here. And I'm like, you might have to go buy her a new gun. And he's like, yeah, maybe. And I said, you should ask James what gun she's shooting. James heard me. He looked up and goes, you want to know? Yeah, no, she's shooting my Wilson Combat. I said, and I asked him how. He goes, oh, Wilson Combat. Okay. I was like, ask him how much that gun is. He's like, $3,500. And he's like, what? $3,500? I said, yeah, dude, you're going to be making a heck of a gun purchase here in the next couple of days. I said, we took her from that VW Rabbit, and we put her in a Lamborghini is what we did. And he starts laughing, and it was kind of the joke of the thing. And she shot the heck out of the gun, and I think she really liked it. But I mean, when you got a guy that's helping you in class, and he just has no problem, and he hands his $3,500 handgun over to a student, to a new shooter, and says, yours isn't working real well. I know it's going to frustrate you. I want you to learn. I want you to learn the basics. Here, use this gun. This is what I have in my bag right now. Here, use this gun. And he hands over his $3,500 gun. That says a lot right there. That's absolutely fantastic. And that's the kind of thing you're going to get in my class. We want everyone to have a great experience. A great experience. I've been doing this for, this year was 10 years. Longest standing handgun instruction company business, right, in my area, in the Magic Valley. Everyone else, you get your fly-by-nights. They show up and they disappear. Show up and they disappear. And I think a lot of it is you find out that this isn't, unfortunately, in this area, this is not a money. I mean, you make a little bit of money, but you can go do a lot of other things and make a lot better money than you can instructing classes. You really can. And if you're trying to combine it with another job, then what does that mean? That means you're giving classes in the evenings after you've worked all day, or that means you're giving classes on the weekends that you have off from your other job, and you just want to do you. You want to go camping. You want to go ride four-wheelers. That's the kind of stuff that happens. But I've been around a while. I've seen a lot of things in class. And when you come to class, don't worry, man. You're in good hands. You're in good hands of me, and I've got some great instructors that help me out, and you'll have a good class, I promise. So I just that kind of devolved into to that conversation, and I think it was a good one that had to be had. When you go take a class, trust the guy. Hopefully trust the guy. If the guy gives you bad vibes, if he's doing something unsafe, feel free to leave. Feel free to up and leave, because you need to do that. Your safety is number one. And Lord knows I've heard horror stories about many other classes in the valley, just classes, period. So we want to avoid that. We want to avoid a problem. So what else have I had going on? Well, my dirt work never worked out. I didn't get any more dirt brought into my range. So I am down to this is the glorious life of a firearms instructor who owns his own range, right? I got a tractor, but I don't got a bucket for the tractor. Okay. So I am going, I could go rent a piece of equipment, but that costs money. So that costs money. So what I have been doing this week is I got the spots on the dirt berm. They get shot out, right? They get shot out. Excuse me. And so all the dirt disappears, right? You get these big craters that work their way back into the berm. I've been running around going back and forth with my wheelbarrow and my shovel for my big pile of dirt across my property, filling that wheelbarrow, pushing it over there, and throwing the dirt up there with my shovel to fill in those those craters. My voice is going here. So, sorry about that. So that's kind of what I've been doing. It takes 2.5 wheelbarrows per lane to fix it. Eventually, I want to get a bunch more dirt, and I do want to get some equipment in here, and I want to build the berm up. I want to go further out and higher, further up, for safety reasons. So that's my goal. But right now, I'm just going to fill it in with a shovel. So if you're bored and you're in the area and you have a wheelbarrow and a shovel, come on over, fill in these holes, and I'll give you a little bit of range time. That's how I'm going to trade that thing out. So we'll get that filled in eventually. But this week I had my men's group class. I had my women's group class, the Wednesday night class and the Thursday night class. We had a good time, and they're all, sticking with me here, obviously. And I hope they all understand that we're just I get them for about an hour on those nights. And so we just have some drills that we're doing, but these drills are very important, and I think they're seeing that. I'm always a little worried as an instructor when we do these group classes where they stretch over a summer, right? It's so you don't have to spend a lot of time every time you're here. You get multiple times to shoot. That when I do these drills build up on each other. And as they build up on each other, you develop enough skills that we can do more fun stuff, right? But you have to have the fundamentals. Now we're going to get into that later on. That's going to be my topic of conversation at the end of my podcast. But I do have some news stories and some stuff I've come across that I would like to play. So I was on TikTok. As much as you guys know how I feel about TikTok, I love TikTok. But as much as others may not listen to it or like it, I get it. You do you. I went ahead and pulled some audio off TikTok. Now, this is Tucker Carlson. I think it's probably 3 or 4 minutes long, but it's good audio. So we're just going to play the whole thing. but let me tell you what it is. It's Tucker Carlson, and he is interviewing Eric Swalwell. Eric, if you don't know, is a Democratic congressman out of California, and he has this idea of what he wants to happen with these scary rifles. And he talks about it's not a gun confiscation he wants, and he'll go into detail and explain this. Now, this is off TikTok, so this is someone who has found this clip and put it on their TikTok and played it because they thought it was important for everyone to hear. I have tried to research this a little bit, and maybe my Google foo is not good. I cannot find if this is a recent clip or not, but I think it's a timeless clip. It doesn't matter if this came out 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 4 years ago. You may have heard it, but it illustrates some points that I always have that I always talk about, that I've said on here, that I've said on my radio show. So I'm going to play this. You're going to listen to it, and then I'll kind of point out a few things that I have noticed. Here you go.
California. So you've talked a lot about Russia, but you've also become known for your position on guns, and you're one of the very few Democrats, I think, who's been honest about that. You say that the U.S. government ought to ban a certain species of rifle. You wrote a piece about this. This is not a secret view you have. You wrote it in USA Today, and you say this: we should ban possession of military-style semi-automatic assault weapons. We should buy back such weapons from all who choose to abide by the law, and we should criminally prosecute any who choose to defy it by keeping their weapons. So we should confiscate this entire class of firearms. What do you think would happen if the federal government tried to do that?
Well, Tucker, did you read the op-ed?
I did. I just quoted from it extensively.
Yeah, I'm not calling for a confiscation. What I'm saying is we should invest in a buyback, that we should restrict any weapons that aren't bought back to gun clubs, hunting clubs, shooting ranges, keep them there where it's safe and not on our streets. And if you were caught, just like if you were caught, with drugs or anything else, if they had probable cause to go into your home and you had one of these weapons, yeah, you'd be prosecuted. I've never suggested sending troops out.
I'm going to quote an old friend of mine called Eric Swalwell. He's a congressman from California on the Intel Committee. Can you put it back on the screen, please? I'm just going to quote once again. And we should buy back those weapons, and I'm quoting, criminally prosecute any who refuse to choose to defy it by keeping their weapons. So you're going to prosecute people who don't give up their weapons. That's gun confiscation.
If they're caught with them, yeah. We're not sending troops. We're not sending troops door to door.
So, but what do you think? What do you think would happen? I mean, do you think, because of course the overwhelming majority of those people are law-abiding, have committed no crime, have no plans to commit a crime, you would instantly turn them into felons. Do you think that you would have a civil war? Are you worried about that?
What do you think will happen if we do nothing? You think more kids will be killed?
I'm not.
You think more concerts will be shut up? More churches will lose parishioners?
I'm not arguing on behalf of doing nothing. I'm critiquing your very specific suggestion for what we. And you're a lawmaker, so this is meaningful what you said.
And I trust the American people are law-abiding, that their weapons could be bought back, or keep them at a gun club. You don't have to give it up.
But what if you want to keep them in your home and you've done nothing wrong, you haven't hurt anybody, and now you just made them into felons?
Yeah, no, there's no troop roundup here, Tucker.
No, but you just made them into felons. You just said that in the piece. Look, I'm not making this up, but you wrote that. So what do you think? Like, if I'm a gun owner and I have one of the weapons that you say should be banned, and I don't feel like bringing it to a gun club, I feel like keeping it in my bedroom closet.
I don't think you're giving the American people enough credit that they'd be law-abiding and that they would
obey you.
Well,
or else they'd be criminally prosecuted.
No, I'm suggesting we have a conversation in Congress and pass a ban like this. They would be obeying the law.
Would you apply as written by you?
Yeah, it would have to be passed by.
Would you apply these standards to yourself and your fellow members of Congress?
Absolutely.
Okay, so
not cops though. I don't think cops should be outgunned.
So your bodyguards could have any kind of guns.
I don't have bodyguards.
Yes, you do. I was there today.
No,
you have many bodyguards.
I don't have bodyguards.
I was just there today.
I don't personally have bodyguards.
Oh, but you're surrounded by them.
Yeah.
You're surrounded by bodyguards that I pay for. And
they're police officers. They're sworn. They're trained.
They're there to protect you. They're
and they
your
shouldn't be outgunned. And that's the problem. I have two brothers who are cops.
Hold on.
My dad was a cop. They're outgunned right now.
But your bodyguards would get to have any kind of gun they want to protect you, but I wouldn't have.
I don't want them to protect me. I want them to protect the people who are getting shot up in the schools.
But that's not. No, Capitol Police exists to protect you.
No, this isn't about Capitol Police.
Well, no, but it is, though.
This is about the kids who are dying, Tucker.
It's about me
in their schools. They're afraid to go to school tomorrow. They hear a book drop.
No, but hold on.
They think a shooter's walking into the classroom.
So you're
Don't they deserve to be protected?
Yeah, they do. And
So
my
let's protect them.
Amen. But
Why do you need an AR-15?
I don't know why you need
to protect your house.
You have them in your building where you work.
Police officers.
No, your bodyguards.
Don't denigrate the cops.
I'm not
Tucker.
denigrating them.
They work
I'm
hard.
glad they're there.
They
No.
shouldn't be outgunned, and they're outgunned right
No, but
now.
wait a second.
I went to the funeral for 4 police officers who were
Great.
killed by an assault weapon.
You don't actually care more than I do. We care the same. So it's not a question of who cares.
Do you think cops should have guns?
I think that your bodyguards should have the same guns that I have to protect my family.
They're America's bodyguards, Tucker.
They're not. They're
Don't
yours.
denigrate them like that.
I'm not denigrating them.
They work too
really,
hard.
Can they come to my house and protect my wife while I'm at work?
If you call the police, yeah.
Oh, but can I have a Capitol Hill? When you go to work, they hang out and protect you.
They're protecting the constituents.
No, they're protecting
who come
you,
in.
actually.
I don't have.
So why not?
Tucker.
But hold on. Why shouldn't my wife have the same firearm at home that your bodyguards use to protect you? Is that fair or is that unfair? Why is
That's
it unfair?
a ridiculous argument.
Oh, why?
It's absolutely ridiculous.
Why is it ridiculous? Because you're more important than me?
No, I don't. You are trying to.
No, I'm asking a sincere question. Why should you get to protect yourself?
Our cops should not be outgunned.
No,
period.
I'm talking not our cops. I'm talking
Our military
your cops.
shouldn't be outgunned.
No, your cops,
Period.
Capitol Hill Police, have. Why don't we just limit them to the same gun
Tucker,
I can have at home?
why can't we have a
do
real
that?
conversation about this?
This is a real
nonsense.
conversation. Why is it nonsense? You're putting your life.
You're calling
above my
cops
family.
bodyguards, and that's
No,
disrespectful to them.
I'm not calling all cops
Police Week
bodyguards.
was last week. They were all here
I'm
in town
calling your
honoring the
cops.
fallen, and
I'm
you're calling them
calling-
bodyguards.
No, I'm calling your
My dad was a
bodyguards.
cop. He's not a bodyguard.
No.
He protects people.
Do you have
and that's ridiculous.
Do members of Congress have bodyguards? I notice
You're
whenever
calling
I
a cop
see
a bodyguard, man? That is so disrespectful.
They are.
No,
and
they're
the
sworn
government
police officers.
pays for them.
They
And I was in
protect
the
you
Capitol
and your
today.
kids
No, they're in your
and our
office.
families.
Can I get the same in my
And they
office?
shouldn't be outgunned.
Taxpayers can pay for it.
They shouldn't be outgunned.
Can I ask a
They're
question?
outgunned today.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
If I walk down the hallway in front of your office, you have officers there paid for by taxpayers. Great guys. I'm not attacking them, obviously, and I think they watch this
they're under
channel.
attack.
Thank you for that. They're not at all. I'm merely saying that you have better protection than I do. And you're saying that my family doesn't deserve to have a certain species of weapon. You get to decide what we can protect ourselves with, but you're not going to in any way take the ability to protect you away from the Capitol Hill Police.
I'm saying that every police officer in America today is outgunned. For their safety and for the safety of the people they protect, we shouldn't have assault weapons.
Right. You just don't want to apply the rules to yourself. I get it. I wouldn't either. You know what I mean? I care about protecting my family.
Now, let's protect the kids first. That seems like the
my
first place
kids
to
in
start.
my house. I agree.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Outgunned. So there's so much in that clip right there that, I mean, it just points to everything we talked about. And I'm gonna mention a few of them, and I'll probably miss some because I got a little fired up. I've actually found this clip early this morning when I first got up, and I've listened to it numerous times, and I just get fired up every time I hear it, right? So he says, he has this plan. He wants to get AR-15s. I love the way Tucker puts it, a certain species of rifle off, out of the hands of the public, right? And he goes, well, it's not gun confiscation. Well, you know what? It is gun confiscation. It is, but it's not the way we think. Everyone thinks about gun confiscation as sending law enforcement officers and everyone house to house to house to get these weapons. Well, if you turn everyone into felons overnight, that is another way to do it. They know that going door to door to door is going to cause problems. It'll probably lead to some kind of civil war. That's not going to be an effective way to do it. But they've done this with bump stocks and everything else. Turn everyone into a felon overnight, and all of a sudden you've confiscated these guns. You turn them in, or you store them at a police department, or you store them at a gun range. That sounds kind of like Australia to me. That's kind of their MO. That's their model of firearms laws, firearms regulation that they have down there, and ownership that they have down there. So that's what he wants. People aren't going to do that. And I love the fact where he jumps in there and he says, well, the law enforcement is going to be outgunned. You're going to have better weapons and better guns. First of all, that's not true. Second of all, it doesn't, there's things as a citizen, right? My Second Amendment should be open to everything. Like, I should be able to own a freaking fighter jet if I want to, a grenade launcher, a full auto, whatever I want, right? But I can't, okay? And the fact that the Second Amendment was put into place so the public could stand up to a tyrannical government. So you can't keep that in place and then take away the firearms that we are allowed to have. You can't do that. We need those guns in case we need to stand up against a tyrannical government. And then another point that he makes that I've talked about the entire time, a lot, the entire time I've been doing the podcast. I mentioned it all the time, right? And I don't think anyone, at least who is a gun guy, is going to argue with me on this. They don't give a crap about the guns. It's not the guns, okay? They have a problem with you having the guns. They want the guns. They want the police to have the guns. They want their security and bodyguards to have guns, right? He specifically said in there, I want these alternate, except unless you're a police officer. Unless you're a police officer. They don't care about the guns. They care about you. They care about us having the firearms. That's who they don't want. Why is that? So they can push us into whatever they want. So they can control us. They don't care about your kids in school. They honestly don't, because there's other solutions to the whole mass shootings in schools situation, right? You take the rifles away. There's a lot of them that have been done with just handguns. Some of the most, I don't want to call any of these things famous. We'll say the most infamous ones have been done with handguns, but yet and I don't want them to come after the handguns. They want all your guns, but they continually focus upon this rifle, right? They continually focus upon the rifle. It's just this whole thing, this whole notion, this whole idea that this Eric Swalwell had is just absurd. But he let a lot out of the bag. The elite people get the firearms. The people we deem not elite, the lowly citizens, you and me, we don't, because we are the peasants. We are the ones they want to control. That's why they need to take our guns and take our rights so that we can't stand up against them. I mean, he lays it all out there. He continually lays it out there. And then I think, what you're going to see in the long run is if they were to go ahead and do something like this, and then they say, well, law enforcement gets their guns. It's just kind of like with the vaccinations, right? They tried to get law enforcement, like places down in Australia, right? They wanted to enforce masks, they wanted to enforce vaccinations, and the law enforcement was going along with it until they realized that, hey, look, they're going to come after us too. And then we're going to get forced these vaccinations. And then the law enforcement went, whoa, wait a minute. Where's our security? We don't want these. We'll enforce for the people to get, we'll force them to get vaccinations, but we don't want to get the vaccinations. And when they decided and when they realized what was going on, that, hey, look, there's a time and a place for us and we're expendable and they're going to use us right now, and then they're going to do what they want with us later on. That's exactly what they would do here. Law enforcement will have the guns. They'll be able to enforce and control us until they don't need law enforcement anymore. And then all of a sudden it's going to be the chosen law enforcement, which is probably going to be some kind of federalized police, right? Some kind of federalized police force, and they're going to be the chosen. They're going to be the elite. They're going to be the ones with the firearms. They're going to be the long arm of the law of the federal government. It's going to come down and enforce everything they want on us, the little people, the peasants of this country. That's something we need to keep an eye on, because I guarantee you that's what they want, honestly. And I mentioned it before, but even here locally, it was very interesting because we had some state representatives here in this state, here in my local area, that they go up to Boise, they go up to the Capitol, they do all their legislating up there. And they were speaking out against this bill that we had about allowing concealed carry in our local schools. And I don't remember the ins and the outs of the actual bill, but it was going to allow concealed carry in our schools. And one of the legislators, local guy, came out and said, well, the sign on the front of the school that says no weapons, that is enough. You guys do not need this new ruling to allow you to carry firearms in your school. That sign right there will detour the criminals. That is enough to protect your children. But he made these rulings. He made these decisions. Where did he make them at? He made them up at the Capitol in Boise in a building with all his other lawmaker friends, all his other legislators. Guess what? They were protected by what? Men with guns, people with guns. They are the elite, and they were protected by the elite. They don't care about anything else. A sign is good enough for your kids. A little sticker that I stick on the freaking glass on the front door is good enough to protect your kids, but it's not good enough for them. So they're going to be armed. They're going to have armed security, armed police protecting them. Because why? Because they are more important than your children. They are more important than your children. And the people that think that they are more important than your children, they're the ones running the country. They're the ones making the decisions that are allowing people to get killed, that are stomping all over your rights, saying, hey, look, we are more elite than you. We are the elite. You peasants are nobody. You don't know anything. You're dumb. You're stupid. You're not smart enough to make these decisions for yourself. So we're going to tell you what to do and when to do it and where to do it and how to do it and when you're going to eat. And it's going to get to a point where it's when you're going to eat and what you're going to eat and when you can leave your house and where you're going to work and if you're going to get the jab and when you wear a mask. They've proven that, too. We think, well, that sounds like that's out there. Well, there was about a year where they proved that. We're going to tell you when you can leave your house and where you can go. And we're going to shut your businesses down. And we're going to tell you what you can wear on your face. And we're going to try and tell you what you're going to have injected into your body. I mean, this all seems real sci-fi book, right? I mean, this is like something you read about and you're going, as a little kid, and you're going, holy crap, that's absolutely insane. Well, that happened. That happened. And they've got a taste for it. And they saw that most of the people, the majority of the country, of the citizens of this country would go along with it. Like no questions asked, like sheep. Like sheep. They obeyed. They obeyed the law. They obeyed the reign of the law that came down from above. That's why in this interview, when Eric Swalwell says, well, of course people are going to do it. Of course people are going to take their guns and turn them into law enforcement. Of course people are going to take their rifles and leave them at sheriff's departments and check them out when they want to shoot them. And of course people are going to leave their rifles at gun clubs and leave them there and show up to the gun club and just shoot. Of course people will obey because it's the law. And why is he saying that? Because it's been proven. It's been proven that not everyone, but a good portion, the majority of this country will do exactly what they're told. And I know I preach that this is not time for rebellion, but I tell you what, if they come for your firearms, if they start doing stuff like this, something's going to have to happen, right? We can't just, here I am, totally opposite of the Todd that you heard, 2 weeks ago. But there's going to come to a point where we have to roll over, or we can't roll over. We're going to have to stand up for our rights. I mean, it's coming. I don't know when, and it could be years out yet, but it is coming, and it's getting closer and closer and closer. And I think what you're doing is you're seeing all these extreme things happen, like during COVID. And now I think it's going to back off just a little bit. You're going to get comfortable, right? It's that, I forget the name of it. It's like a political term, right? It's the window. It's a sliding scale, right? It moves really extreme, and you go, oh my gosh, I can't believe this happened. Oh, look at this, and then you get a little comfortable with it, and then it releases and it slides back just a smidge, but never back to where it was, and then it goes a little bit further, a couple years later, and you go, oh man, it's just horrible. I can't believe this happened. And it slides back, but not as far as it was. And pretty soon what used to be outrageous, what used to be crazy is now normal. And they ease us into it. It's like dropping that frog, right? It's like dropping that frog. I wish I could remember that term. But it's like dropping putting that frog in that pot of water. If it's red hot water boiling, you drop the frog in, what's he going to do? He's going to jump out. But if you put that frog in that pot of water, and you slowly increase the heat over time, that frog will just stay in there, and get hotter, stay in there and get hotter and hotter until he just boils up, just burns up. And that's the way they're working this on us. It's exactly the way they're working. They're making what didn't seem normal seem normal, something that we look for, something that we strive for, that we want. And then they push it, and then we come back, and then they push it a little further, and pretty soon what wasn't normal is what we are asking for, because it is the new normal. So I'll jump down off that. But that's crazy, man. That was a pretty good clip. So like I said, I don't know how old that clip was, but I still think it's very, very, very relevant, even for today. So something I posted on Facebook, something I came across, is they've been talking about this for 5, 6, 7 years, right? Well, they're taking orders for it now, and they're actually going to take orders for it now, and they will start selling this as of next year. It's the new firearm, the new 9mm they call BioFire. And nothing that I'd ever want to, I mean, I think it's interesting, but it's nothing that I'd want to trust my life to. So let me play this little snippet on this gun, and then we will discuss it. Here you go.
Fire Technologies, a startup that specializes in developing next-generation weapons, has unveiled the BioFire Smart Gun. The gun, which is a 9mm handgun, features a built-in fingerprint scanner and a face scanner. Once the gun recognizes the wearer can use the gun's firing functions. If you don't pass the test, however, you can't fire it. The BioFire Smart Gun's electronic circuits are powered by its lithium-ion battery. One charge can provide the device with up to a month of continuous operation. The BioFire gun also has an encrypted chip that's designed to protect it from unauthorized access. The goal of the BioFire gun is to protect civilians. It's not designed to be used by the military or special services. The BioFire Smart Gun will begin selling next year, and pre-orders are available now. The model is priced at $1,499 at the time of publication of this news.
So there you go. If you got about $1,400 laying around, you can have yourself a new BioFire. You can get on the list. And if you do get one, I'd like to check it out. I'm not going to spend that kind of money and buy one of those. I'd rather take that money and purchase another P30 from Langdon Tactical. It's a nicer gun. It works when I want it to. Guess what? It waits for me to press the trigger and it works. It doesn't have to do facial recognition. It doesn't have to scan my fingerprints. Anything electronic like that scares me. So it's electronic. It's in your house. They're talking about it as a smart gun. So we've all seen these smart controls for your house, right? Where you can adjust everything, and really cool, really awesome, fantastic stuff. Well, there's already been stories about those thermostats that are stuck because whoever runs those things will, the electric company, whatever, the power company, makes it so you can't adjust those. They just keep them adjusted from where they're at. They gain control of that. You can't, I would have a hard time proving to me that there wasn't something built into these firearms that the government couldn't just get in there and control. Because if you go watch the video, I know there's no video on podcasting, but if you go watch the video, what it shows is this this holder, like this pedestal. It's got this big screen, and the gun sits on there, and that's what keeps the gun charged up. And to get the gun off, it looks like a giant iPhone or a small tablet, and it scans your face. Scans your face, and that's what allows you to use that gun. That's a computer. That's straight up a computer. It wouldn't surprise me if it didn't have to be hooked up to Wi-Fi or something, right? And yeah, so with AI out now, with all this other stuff out now, I see a big problem with this. And the fact that when I posted this on the Patriot Defense Facebook page, you can check it out over there. Well, it's just a picture. It's not an article, but it's just a picture there. You can kind of see what it looks like. You can't tell me that as soon as I pick this thing up, it's going to work. I'd be afraid of it not working, not scanning a fingerprint, because you know how wonderful the iPhones are, right? Sometimes they don't unlock, especially when you want them to, they won't unlock right away, and I could just see that happening. It's all electronic. As far as I'm concerned, someone is controlling it, and it ain't you, right? It's not you. So just kind of one of those laughable things that they've been talking about for a while, but it still piques my interest when I see it. So earlier in the show, we talked about Australia. We talked about wanting to take our firearms, and we all know that there's been lots of shootings and lots of traction on everything that's going on right now. More talk, like always, but more talk, continued talk of firearm confiscation, new gun laws, everything like that. And then you have a place like Australia that goes ahead and reports a story on how gun ownership is on the rise in America. And this is out of Australia. So they are, they don't really have freedom to firearms like we do. So they are a little, why is this happening? Why is gun ownership on the rise?
Gun ownership is on the rise in the United States. As CNN's Miguel Marquez reports, mass shootings and the pandemic have helped stimulate America's appetite for firearms.
Meet Jen and Shelby.
Why can't I get it?
They don't want their last names used. They are friends, colleagues, gun enthusiasts.
What gun or guns do you own now?
I have a Ruger and a Rossi, both rifles.
Both from Long Island, New York City adjacent, both professionals. Jen has her permit but is yet to buy a handgun.
And why do you want to buy a handgun?
I've been wanting to buy one for years. I'm also someone that lives alone for a couple of years now, so probably for safety mostly, but I do enjoy coming to the ranges and shooting.
She's trying them out, seeing which one is the best fit for her. Shelby, like many Americans, made the decision to arm up during the pandemic.
Do you feel safer having a gun?
I do.
Why?
Because I'm not sure the chaos is over, and I just feel like a lot of people have guns, and it would be good to have. I'm a single female. I live on my own, and why not protect myself?
The number of both state and national instant criminal background checks, a check required before one can purchase a gun, and a rough indicator of how many people are either purchasing or possibly being issued a gun permit, surged during the pandemic, from under 30 million to nearly 40 million. Today, in states like New York, officials say there's a backlog of gun permit applications, with more applying every day.
The licensing agencies are inundated with applications. During COVID, the applications quadrupled.
Even in a state like New York, where gun ownership is highly regulated, business at South Shore Sportsman, never better.
40% of my clientele comes from New York City.
From New York City?
Yep.
The 5 boroughs?
Yep.
All 5?
Yep. Staten Island to the Bronx.
And what are they buying?
Handguns if they have a license, like the gentleman that just left, or shotguns.
Right.
By checking
Nothing
the
in the chamber.
For many, the constant headlines about crime drives them to gun ownership. For others, it's the mass shootings and the fear of not having a gun if everyone else does.
What effect do all these shootings and major events have on your business?
In the immediate aftermath, in most states, it would lead to an increase in sales because everybody looks at the news, and although that's a terrible event, they say the same thing. There's going to be a new law.
So there's a rush to get in to buy a gun.
A rush to get the stuff that they think they're going to lose.
So who out there is buying guns and why? We met a lot of people in the medical profession, retirees, housewives, all of them gun users. And it's not just concerns about the pandemic or about crime that is driving gun sales. It all becomes a bit of a feedback loop. The more they see violence, the more they're concerned they are that everyone else around them is armed, the more they feel they too need a gun.
So there you go. I mean, and it's not something I have to point out. I mean, this is something we've talked about. I've talked about on this show for a long time, and it's been going on for quite a while. We really saw it rise, during the pandemic, right, during COVID. But gun ownership is on the rise, and it's due to the things that I've mentioned ad nauseum over and over and over again. It's on the rise because people know that no one is going to be there to stand up for them and protect them. And the people lived in these areas where there were these riots, places where law enforcement were told to stand down, that they weren't going in there, and buildings were getting burned and cars were getting flipped over. And they see these shootings and they respond. People respond, right? They decide, even people that have never had firearms, never had an interest in them, was like, wow, I need to be able to protect myself, because the party that I support, the party that doesn't want me to have firearms, is making it so there's just crime is running rampant in the streets. And that same party that I support, that I thought I was a part of, is calling for defund the police, and there's no one there to do anything. And they don't honestly care about the people. And I live in one of these areas, and I'm going to have to protect myself. And I mean, that's what we see. And I think it's absolutely fantastic. Everyone needs to take their own self-protection into their hands. They need to be responsible for it. And they need to go get a gun. They need to learn how to use it. They need to take a class. And to Eric Swalwell, I don't know. If you do that, if something like that were to come down, where you would have to check in your rifles, possibly handguns too, and leave them at a gun range, leave them at a law enforcement office, and then check them out when you wanted to use them. I just don't think that's going to fly. And while you guys are up there trying to figure out how to do this, the American public is buying guns at a rate never seen before. They're purchasing firearms. They're purchasing ammo. And it's kind of like a big FU. That's what it is. It's kind of like a big FU. You want them? We're going to buy more. The harder you push to take them, the more we're going to buy. So the harder it's going to be for you to enforce anything. Right? That's what I see coming. And when people go, why is it on the rise in Australia? Why is gun ownership on the rise in America? Well, because we haven't been neutered like the people of Australia. We haven't been programmed like the people of Australia to believe that this is okay. We haven't given up our rights. So there's always that. So one more thing I want to touch on before I end the podcast. It's just something that I saw. So I had a class yesterday. I had a permit class on Saturday, and yesterday I had a husband and wife show up, and the woman, she's been in my women's group class a couple of years now, and she's fantastic. And her husband saw what was going on, saw that she was having a great time shooting, and wanted to come and see what it was all about. So she signed up for a private class for him and her, and they showed up yesterday. Now, they already knew the basics, and we just kind of touched on them really quick to make sure everyone was good, and we moved on. And we got to do a lot of fun stuff. Now, they were only here for a couple hours, a little over a couple hours, and so this is what we worked on in that class. And they go out and they shoot a lot. And so I know that I could give them little bits and pieces of drills, right? Certain drills. And they would take them and they would practice and put them into play. So they showed up, and I knew where she was at, because she'd done a lot of these drills before, and I kind of knew her shooting ability, and I was unsure about his. So as soon as he showed up, I checked out his grip. We talked about grip and some things that he could do to improve recoil management through his grip. We talked about his trigger press, focused on that just a little bit. And then we went and we did the 50-50 drill. We did the sights aligned trigger reset drill. We did, 2 rounds and kind of shooting in a rhythm type drill, multiple shots. We did multiple target acquisition. And then we put that multiple target acquisition to play on the steel targets left and right, paper targets left and right, right to left, and then steel targets left to right, right to left. Talking about what? Talking about bullseye type competition, bullseye type accuracy, versus like defensive accuracy type stuff. And then we got out the dueling tree, and they dueled each other. They competed against each other. But then we talked about acquiring targets up and down, up, down, top, down, up, top, bottom, whatever, up and down, right, vertically. And fantastic day. And I just got to watch them improve. They started off slow and careful, focusing on the fundamentals. And then as they improved, they got quicker and faster and way more confident and way more accurate. And just what a fantastic day. And it was fun, right? I hold a lot of different classes. I do a lot of permit classes, right? But a majority of my private classes are they're just basic fundamentals, okay? Because it's a beginner's class, because they ask for I'm new, And I just can't stress enough. Those are so important. And you have to start there. And yeah, it's fun. You're shooting a gun. You're learning the fundamentals. That has to be done. Bar none. That has to be done. Don't stop after that. You have to know things in a certain order before you can move on. You have to understand the fundamentals. You have to have the grip, the stance, the trigger press. You got to know how to work the sights. You've got to get used to the firearm, right? And shoot it and kind of become one with it and be comfortable with it, right? And still obey those safety rules, but get comfortable and more confident. And then once you have that, then we can adjust your grip a little bit more, focus on that trigger press, and then we can get into better things, more fun things. You can start putting the picture together. It's not just these are the fundamentals, this is how you shoot. Okay, you did good, see you later. Look for more, ask for more. Don't stop after that beginner's class. And I'm not just trying to generate, I'm always trying to generate myself some more business, right? I will say that. But if you're not here, we have plenty of listeners that listen to this podcast. They do not live here. So go find an instructor. Don't just stop after that beginner's class. Go and do more. You've got to know the fundamentals so you can build up and so you can do more fun things. You can work on the 50-50 drill. You can learn how to drive and press, right? You can learn how to shoot quicker, faster, multiple shots. You can engage multiple targets in a quick manner. You can get back onto target acquisition faster for that second shot. And when you start doing that, when you start firing multiple shots at the same target, 1, 2, 3, 4, so bang, 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 and you get them and they're all either touching or they're within the size of like a golf ball size group on your, absolutely fantastic. There's more than just sitting there and shooting the bullseye one round at a time slowly. I mean, that's fun, but there's so much more fun things that you can do. And you need to progress and you need to push. You need to learn how to draw and shoot and move. I had so much fun yesterday because it's not very often, to be 100% honest with you, it's not very often that I get people coming back for more than just a permit class or more than just a beginner's class, right? And I say that, and I don't know if it's me. I don't know what it is. I think people get comfortable. Look, I know how to shoot the gun. I got the gun. I'm good to go. There is so much more than that. That is just that's not even a drop in the bucket. I mean, it's not. There's so much more you can learn. But you can't just get a hold of me and not know anything and say, I want to learn how to draw and shoot. I want to learn how to do this. I want to learn how to do that. You've got to work up to it. And you can't always fit that into, well, you can never fit that all into one class. There is a progression. There is a progression for sure. You have to build upon each concept. You learn a concept, great. Then we're going to move on. We're going to add something. We're still using that concept, that thing you just learned, that new skill you just learned, and then we're going to add a little more to it, right? Make it a little more complex, a little deeper. Then you're going to learn that. So now you've got that older skill, that first skill you learned. You paired it with this new thing, and you master that. You learn that, become good and proficient with that, and then we add something else to that. And it just keeps growing, right? It just keeps growing. Now, when you are taking a class, when you are learning those skills, is very, very, very important. When you show up to take a class, you need to be open-minded. You need to be able to be taught. If you can't be taught, if you're going to fight instruction, just don't take a class. Don't waste your money. Don't waste the instructor's time. You need to show up. You need to be willing to learn. If you've just spent your entire life shooting at cans, shooting this, shooting on the ranch, shooting on the farm, fantastic. I mean, that's a start. But you know what? There's so much outside of the box stuff that you can learn, that you can do, that's going to help you. And it's not all the stuff that your grandpa taught you, right? We might take all that stuff your grandpa taught you, and we might just change everything, because there's so much more to it depending on what you want to do. But I've seen it in other classes I've been a part of and taken, and I've also had it happen in classes that I've instructed. When you show up, be open-minded. Don't ask for help, and then when the instructor helps you and is watching you, you do it. And then when the instructor turns around and turns back to watch you again, you're not doing it. Some people just don't want to change. And if you really want to learn, you have to trust your instructor. So go find an instructor that you trust, right? That's what you need to do. Find an instructor that you trust. Let him teach you. Learn it. Be malleable. I think that's the word. Malleable, right? So you take instruction well. Learn. And if it ends at the end of the class, you don't really like what you learned, it doesn't work for you, guess what? You still know how you used to do it. But in that class, don't fight it. Accept it. Give it a chance. Even if it seems dumb, even if it seems boring, this is boring. You have to do the drill. You do the drill because there's building blocks to get to what you want. When I teach someone how to draw a gun, guess what? It is kind of boring. And you feel silly doing it because you're drawing without a gun. I mean, you're making a gun out of your fingers, and that's how we're drawing it. And it feels silly, and it feels ridiculous, and it feels kind of stupid. But it's very important because you have to know, you have to get the muscle memory. You have to know how to do it properly, and then we can do it with a firearm. When you're learning the trigger press, there's drills that we can do, right? And the drills seem very boring. 1 round, 50-50 drill, 1 round, and then a dry fire. You're taking a loaded magazine, you're putting it in the gun, you're racking the slide to chamber 1 round, then you are taking the magazine out. Then you are taking the shot, and then you are giving me a dry fire. Guess what? That's the drill. After that, you stick the magazine back in, chamber around, repeat. Remove the magazine, fire the round, give me a dry fire. Seems boring, seems horrible. But there's a reason why you're doing it. And that one is because it will improve your shooting. It's a building block to something else. You have to do it. If you want to succeed, you have to put in the time. You have to put in the work. You can't skip everything. It's like if you were in some kind of martial arts, and I don't know the level of the belt, so I'm just going to say, you can't show up one day with the basic white belt and say, I wanted to get the black belt today, and then walk out with the black belt. It doesn't work like that. You have to earn it. You have to earn it. You have to learn it. There is a ton that goes into it. And don't expect to learn it overnight. It's not going to happen. So that is my rant, and I do appreciate everyone showing up. My wife and kiddos are getting ready to head off to work and school, and they are sending me texts like they need to talk to me, but they know I'm doing this podcast, a podcast that I really make $0 doing, but I do it because I love to do it. I tell them I'm working. They go along with it. I don't know if they're humoring me or not, but I just texted my wife back. I said, hey, no, I'm not. I'm still working. So I'm working for you guys. I'm giving you guys lots of this awesome, fantastic content that you get to consume. And you can do me a favor, though. You can share this, right? If you listen to this and you like it, you can share this on your social media, and you can get other people to listen to it and help me grow. Give me a rating and review on wherever you listen to it. You can find the podcast on YouTube. Leave a comment there if you want. You can find the audio version on YouTube. You can find it on Spotify. You can find it on Stitcher. You can find it all sorts of places. And I've actually got on YouTube a guy by the name, a listener by the name of The Chameleon77 says, after finding your podcast on Spotify, this was the first episode I listened to. I found it logical, well thought out, entertaining, educational, and many more things. I subbed right away. Wish you were closer to me. I definitely take classes with you. Let me expand it. Oh, hang on a minute. I can't find this. Anyhow, I definitely take classes from you. And then there was more to it, but my phone's not picking up the internet like it should, so I can't finish that out well. Thank you. Leave me comments, man. Leave me comments. I appreciate the comments. You can leave comments on YouTube if you want. If you're on social media, if you're on the Facebook, if you're on the Instagram, go ahead and you can leave comments there. Send me messages. You can even text me. You can call me if you want. I'll take calls. It's not like I'm not an attorney, man. I'm not going to charge you for taking a call from me. I'm not going to charge you because I take your call. It doesn't matter. I like to chat with people. Or shoot me a text. That's easy, right? Area code 620-794-6223. It's area code 620-794-6223. I mean, I'd love to hear from you. Love to hear from you. I do have a handful of people that text me, send me texts and ask me questions from all over the place, from here in the U.S. and even out of the States, over in Europe and areas like that. Fantastic. Do that. I look forward to those comments. Let me know that you listen to the podcast. And like I said, share it with your family, share it with your friends. I'll be back in a week. You guys have a good week. Hopefully it's warming up where you are. Get out, spend some time on the range, really focus on the fundamentals, and then find an instructor if you can. Find an instructor and learn lots more. There's so much more to learn to become a good, well-rounded, dynamic shooter. And I will talk to you guys later. Bye.